Thank you, everyone, for coming. Today, we're going to talk about the pursuit of business opportunities in Abu Dhabi, okay? And here we have, as he just mentioned, Abdullah Al-Shamsi, who's the Director General, Acting Director General for Abu Dhabi Investment Office. They are supporting Abu Dhabi in expanding innovation with private sector companies. And we also have, many of you may have known him as Mr. Wonderful. He will be here to talk today about just overall investment opportunities in the region, things that he's observed. Kevin has been to Abu Dhabi a number of times, and as well as the UAE, and has a lot of insight into the region. My name is Sarah Omaliwu. I'm the founder of Access Abu Dhabi. We're a program that supports the expansion of businesses to the region. And I'd like to start off with my first question to Abdullah. When Abu Dhabi Finance Week was launched a couple days ago, they talked about, the chairman talked about the Falcon economy and how the UAE, specifically Abu Dhabi, is a Falcon economy. So Abdullah, I'd like to understand, can you tell us a little bit more about that Falcon economy and the direction that Abu Dhabi is taking?
Thank you, Sarah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning. Is it still morning? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having us here this morning. Very excited to be here alongside Sarah and Mr. Wonderful in what we're trying to establish here in terms of making sure that you leave this week with at least one seed in your mind, right? And that is that Abu Dhabi is not only open for business, Abu Dhabi is prime for business. As mentioned by my colleague and dear friend, His Excellency Ahmed Al-Zaabi, earlier this week, we continue to flourish as an economy, as Abu Dhabi, in terms of providing for further opportunity for businesses to thrive. And in turn, the statement, the view that we should be taking on as we think about what the next 10, 15 years look like for Abu Dhabi is very much in line and deeply rooted into our culture, which is the falcon. And the symbol of the falcon soaring into the sky, and in the unveiling that some of you may have witnessed, actually just on the other side of the Abu Dhabi Global Markets building, is our new statue, right? The falcon statue that will now rest here to provide further not only insight but inspiration as to what we are trying to do as we look to grow the pie of the private sector in contribution into the Abu Dhabi economy. So very excited to be here, right time, right place for the conversation, ability for us to be able to drive further sustainable activity within the commercial space as we think about planting the seeds for the future to come.
Thank you, Abdul. And I think it is all about sustainability and having sustainable business models that last the test of time. So in terms of sustainable business models and things of this nature, Kevin, what do you see as the segments in this market where businesses can thrive 5, 10, 15 years from now?
I would say, as an investor who's been focusing on this region for a while, let's just take Abu Dhabi for a moment. A decade ago, if you're an institutional investor, you would have thought of it as a place to put capital to work in energy derivative businesses and energy itself and real estate. That is not the case today. This is multi-sectoral. Diversification has occurred. Health sciences, for example. I myself got my DNA sequenced here in the most advanced DNA lab in the world. That's a whole new initiative. There's all kinds of initiatives in financial services, whether they be traditional or now more disruptive opportunities in Web3 applications. So a lot of capital is coming here to set up to support the region. I mean, at the end of the day, money always pursues the path of least resistance. And so if you want to tap the entire region of the Middle East, what is the best place to set up, be licensed, and operate out of? Well, it's Abu Dhabi. I mean, I think they've won that contest, and now it's a decision on what sector are you going to invest in, or are you multi-sectoral? It works here too. I'm a multi-sector investor, so I look for opportunities everywhere, whether it's even new advanced farming, ag tech, you can find it here. So I'm a big advocate now because I'm pragmatic and I'm looking for the path of least resistance. So good job. Don't stop.
Thank you.
Well, we're talking about the path of least resistance and, setting up as easily as possible, expanding to new territories. You're a seasoned investor, Kevin, and when you're looking to expand overseas, what are the criteria you utilize in terms of path of least resistance?
The number one issue is stable policy. When you're putting capital to work that has a 7 to 12 year horizon, you have to be in a place where the government has pro-business policy, where you can meet directly with the regulator on an ongoing basis, where the regulations are understood, because it's not just that you're coming here to get capital. You may be bringing capital, and when you bring capital, you want to explain to your LPs, whether they be institutions or individuals, this is a stable place. This is a safe place. It's a stable place. It attracts people. You get a workforce here that wants to live here for a whole bunch of reasons. And so if you're building out a business with multiple sources of capital, I would say this is a phenomenon in the last 3 years, particularly during the pandemic, I guess. You don't have to explain Abu Dhabi to anybody anymore when you're saying you're going to put capital in the ground there. They somehow, I think, leadership here has done a good job in communicating stability, a pro-business protocol, and then ultimately regulators that actually execute on that. It's one thing to say you're stable, the other is to be stable. Those are two different things. Most of us that have come here in financial services have met the regulator, have spent time with the various offices. It's easy to get access. And it's easy to get an answer. You don't have to wait a lifetime to get an answer. And so maybe the answer is no, but at least you get the answer. That's what matters versus just being strung out. So I think a lot of this has changed in the last maybe 3-4 years since I've been coming here. But the difference, the measure is capital is willing to come here and go long term. And long term to me is anything over 7 years.
Excellent answer. And you talk about pro-business a lot. And I've heard pro-business this week as it relates to the Abu Dhabi government. If I had $1 for every time I heard that, well, I'd probably only have $12. But pro-business is a word that's been talked about quite a bit. So Abdullah, my question is to you. You're spearheading Abu Dhabi Investment Office, and what does pro-business mean to you as it relates to companies setting up in Abu Dhabi? What are you doing to pave the way to make sure that their path is easy?
I think that's a fantastic question and actually a very easy answer. And we were just talking earlier, just this morning, about this. I think the main differentiator between what you find in Abu Dhabi and what you may find elsewhere is that we listen. Right? We talk about access to regulators. You talk about access to government. You talk about access to opportunities within the organization or within the economy. Fundamentally, a business wants to make money, and if there are things that are stopping it from making money, things that we as a government can do something about, this is first and foremost why the government has been set up, and first and foremost why we need to allow for further businesses to thrive. So if anything, it's the ability for us just to sit down and have the conversation and be able to adjust, be able to pivot to allow for further business activity to occur. Our priority has always been, within the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, as much as we think across the Abu Dhabi leadership, is to grow the opportunities for the private sector to contribute to this economy. Because we fundamentally believe that a sustainable economy comes from the private sector, comes from the small and medium-sized enterprises that truly give it that beating heart. And our ability to do that is going to be our success measure. And if we're not here enabling that, if we're not allowing for investment to occur, if we're not allowing for innovation to create competition, to break the mold, right, then we haven't done our part. So we're here to listen to you as much as we are here to make the changes required so that your businesses can thrive.
So I think it's very clear there's plenty of an opportunity in Abu Dhabi. That's one thing that's extremely clear. What I would like to understand from you, Kevin, is how would you advise people to take advantage of those opportunities? How can their businesses capitalize on this market?
It really is a jumping point for the region. So if you're trying to tap growth in the Middle East, which is, I mean, think about regions of the world where you can capture growth and you're not in an adversarial situation. And so I get to speak honestly because I'm Mr. Wonderful. That's what I do. China used to be a place where you could raise a fund and put it to work. That is not the case today, for various reasons that are obvious to everybody. And so you start to look at other places in the world that you would want to tap. Africa's a good one. Middle East is a good one. But where do you operate out of that's in that time zone where you can get talent and where you can attract LP capital? So the way I measure it is I say to myself, okay, if let's say I'm setting up a fund. Let's say I'm doing an infrastructure fund, $2 billion, and I'm going to tap the traditional LPs in North America, in Canada, in Mexico, but maybe this fund is targeted for the Middle East and Africa. The first question they ask is, where's it regulated out of? And so the great thing about Abu Dhabi is you can go to capital markets in the United States and there's no controversy. It's not, and that's not the case for every country in the Middle East. It becomes harder for you to raise capital if you find yourself in a situation where you're trying to explain why it's safe to put money to work in that jurisdiction. You don't have that issue in Abu Dhabi. It's a well-known geography that's stable, and LP capital is willing to come here, and they don't have policy risk. They don't have political risk. They don't have regulatory risk. That is not the case for many other places in this region, just, again, calling it the way it is. And so you only have so many hours in your day. Do you want to spend them fighting the risk metrics and you're trying to explain to your LPs? Or do you want to just say, I don't have to explain risk metrics when I'm talking about Abu Dhabi. Everybody gets it. And as long as you can get licensed, which is what we're talking about through the regulator, then the flow of capital is easier, and you can use this as a jumping point for a lot of other regions. You can take your capital, put it to work in less stable regions, but as long as the management of your fund is here, people are willing to let you diversify your risk that way. That's exactly what's going on here. That is exactly what's happening.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Kevin. Technology is something that we see as very important. It's the fastest growing sector in the world right now. And what we would like to understand, you know, Abu Dhabi, we see the big buildings and the beautiful spaces. I mean, this entire conference has been digitalized. What I want to understand from you, Abdullah, how are you utilizing, and how is Abu Dhabi utilizing technology in terms of advancing the future of business in this economy?
I think that's a great question, Sarah. I would say if anyone's telling you that technology is not only our future, but is already present today, infiltrating everything that we do in our lives, then I would say that they're lying to you, right? I'm looking out on the crowd, and there's technology just being presented in front of us as we speak. We talk about the additional services of technology, the augmented reality. Kevin mentioned the sequencing of your own genetics that is all available to us here. This is us putting technology to work to benefit or augment things that we deal with day in, day out, and to make better decisions for ourselves. So from an Abu Dhabi Investment Office perspective, we are focusing on tech-enabled businesses to bring innovation to this part of the world, to bring innovation specifically to Abu Dhabi. Some of you may have heard of our innovation program, which is a 2 billion dirham, a $545 million program, driven fundamentally to bring technology-enabled companies and to disrupt the market here. Right? We go through, and through a non-dilutive basis, provide opportunities for organizations, whether they're locally based and have generated opportunities here, or ones that are coming from abroad, to set up, establish here, grow their businesses here, and flourish and take advantage of the platform that Abu Dhabi has already set up, to use this as a platform to grow for the rest of the world. We see ourselves as a nexus for access to markets that are potentially not accessible anywhere else. We have been purposeful about being a fertile ground for organizations that want to play within the same set of values that we want to play with, but also be able to partner with us to think about a long-term growth and sustainability within their businesses as well. So for me, technology is there. We are focused on technology, and we want to make sure to enable the technology-specific aided businesses, whether we're talking about artificial intelligence or the digital asset space, everything in this context.
Amazing. So technology is the future, and Abu Dhabi is the future when it comes to not just technology, but as this discussion is about the pursuit of business. It's a play off of the words, the pursuit of happiness. And in order to have happiness, we talk about Abu Dhabi, as a place where businesses can live, work, and thrive. So tell us about kind of from a lifestyle. What is Abu Dhabi offering businesses? They want to, in order to come, you want to bring your families. You want to like sort of place to have access to talent and where everyone is living in a safe. We talk about Abu Dhabi, the #1 safest city in the world. So what is the lifestyle factor, and how does that take it into consideration when businesses are looking to come and expand?
So I think you just mentioned one point, and I want to make sure to focus on this because we, just being from here, living here, completely take it for granted, right? The fact that we are the safest city in the world, right? And that's something that we cannot take for granted. That's something that we need to further embolden, because the ability for you to be able to say, where at any time of day, any day of the year, that I feel safe, that I have access to any of my goods, right? The fact that, and I'm not going to tell you where my car is parked, but I don't lock my car, right? Any day of the week, right? No matter where I am in the city, because I know that it's going to be there when I come back an hour later, 2 hours later, and so on and so forth. And that on its own has tremendous value. And then you add on to it the fact that we have adjusted our work week. We talked about this earlier this morning as well with a smaller group of you. We've adjusted our work week to be Mondays through Fridays versus previously being Sundays through Thursdays. We've created actually a 4.5-day work week as well, talking about the lifestyle balance of giving the ability for people to spend more time with their loved ones, right? As much as we want them to be able to work, there is an aspect of the rest of life, right, that defines you more than just your day job, right, or the title that you carry. We talk about the ability to live here for a very long time, and the thought of actually retiring here, owning your business here, owning real estate here, right? Things that make this place very much tangible as an opportunity to be here. And obviously we're blessed with beautiful weather, right? At least for 6 months of the year, right? And so giving people that opportunity for me is key, right? And giving people that choice as well is also key to give them the option that Abu Dhabi is a long-term option for them.
Excellent. So we're all coming up, moving to Abu Dhabi, bringing our businesses here. I'm sold. I'm a believer. But we have one last question. I'll leave it for you, and it's a simple question. Why Abu Dhabi, Kevin?
I would like to put it this way. Anecdotal story, but I'm a huge watch collector. I love watches. And unfortunately, there are very few places in the world I can wear my watches anymore because I have extremely rare watches. I'm wearing an FP Journe right now. There are very few cities in the world that I would walk around with this watch on my wrist. This is one of them. The watch index talks about safety and the ability to enjoy the things you love in life and be safe in doing them. This is one place on earth I can wear my watch. And there are so many cities that I travel to around the world where I can't. And so that's why, Abu Dhabi, you can wear a watch here.
Okay, so what we've learned today is Abdullah keeps his car unlocked. It's the white G-Wagon over there. And Kevin's rocking around with $1 million watch. So that's the safety of what Abu Dhabi represents. And I'd love to thank you all for being here. We have a next session that's really wonderful, so I hope you stay around, and thank you for your time. Thank you, gentlemen, as well.